Okay, guys. So today we're going to be working on the reading section. Last week we finished the writing section, so today we're going to start with the reading. Reading section is actually the first one that you guys will get in the test. Remember reading section, the listening, speaking, and writing. It's over 30, just like the other ones, and it's everything is the same in the reading section. You get multiple choice, so you will basically have to read a few texts and then answer questions about those texts. Okay, guys? So let's talk about the structure of the reading section. Pretty simple to understand. You guys will read two different passages, two different academic articles, academic texts, and each text will contain 10 questions. That means that in total, you will have 20 questions about two passages, and you will get 36 minutes for the entire reading, which, if you do the math, means that you'll get 18 minutes per passage. Okay, guys, or for 10 questions. So, you get two texts, tienen dos textos para leer, cada texto contiene 10 preguntas, 20 questions in total, 20 preguntas en total, y 36 minutos para todo el reading. O sea que si calculan 18 minutos por texto o por cada 10 preguntas. One thing that it's important to clarify is that you only get one timer. You don't get separate timer. Solo les dan un reloj para los 36 minutos. Es decir, que depende de ustedes cómo organizan su tiempo. Técnicamente podrían pasarse, por ejemplo, 30 minutos en el primer texto, en las primeras 10 preguntas y solo 6 para la segunda. Obviamente eso no es ideal. So, what you have to do is control your time. Tienen que controlar su propio tiempo y asegurarse de que estén usando solo 2 por cada 10 preguntas. Okay, guys? That's very important. You got about 1.5 minutes per question. Alrededor de 1 minuto y medio por pregunta. Average. That means that there are going to be questions that require more time. There are going to be questions that you can answer faster. But in average, you will have around that. En promedio, tienen 1 minuto y medio por pregunta. Algunas duran más, otras las van a poder responder antes. Pero en promedio 1 minuto y medio. Okay, guys? Any questions about this so far? Okay, guys. So, what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at, this is the most useful thing that we can do. We're going to be looking at the different questions types that we have in the reading. And we're going to be seeing the different strategies that you guys need to use for each question type. Because every question is different, every question type is different, and every question requires a different strategy, a different approach. There are 10 different questions in the reading section. We have 10 of them. Vocabulary, detailed, inference. We're going to be seeing them all. Vamos a ver todas. Son 10. Some questions are more frequent than others. Algunas preguntas son más frecuentes, aparecen más. For example, vocabulary and detailed questions are the most frequent ones. But all of them are important because you at least have one of them in every passage. So we're going to see question by question, and we're going to practice question by question as well. And in order to do that, we're going to be using this reading practice from the ETS. It's official from the ETS. Let's see, if you search for reading exam or reading practice, no. This is the one. It's official from the ETS, which means that it should be very accurate, very similar to what you have in the real test. So let's take a look. Okay, guys. Initially, you will have only the text. So you will be able to see the entire text, the entire article, and they will ask you to read it. But you can go to the questions whenever you want. So the best advice that I can give you for this is please don't waste your time reading the text carefully. Don't waste your time trying to understand everything. looking for the details, reading carefully. What you guys have to do is use 2 or 3 minutes to scan the text, para escanear el texto. And you guys need to try to understand the biggest ideas. You need to look for the main ideas in the text just to have a very overall understanding of what it's about. Please don't read everything carefully because you don't have time to do that. You can't allow yourself to use so much time there. You need to go to the questions. That's the most important part. So initially, you should spend 2 to 3 minutes just scanning over the text, trying to look for the main ideas. What I personally did and what I suggest you guys do is maybe you can read the introduction, that means the first paragraph, and also you can read a little bit of the last paragraph, the conclusion. And for the other body paragraphs, what you guys can do is read the first sentences of each paragraph. Usually the main ideas will be in the first sentences. That's what I did, and it's a very useful tip because your focus, your goal is to just understand the main ideas, not to understand everything. So read the first sentences of each paragraph, read a little bit of the intro, the conclusion, and read the title, obviously. That will give you an idea of what the text is about. Okay, guys? That's it. 2 to 3 minutes there, and then you go directly to the questions. Is that okay? Do you have any questions about that? Okay, guys. So I'm going to send you the link where you will have the text, and I want you guys to do that. I will give you 3 minutes, and I want you to look for the main ideas in the text. I want you to just have an understanding of what it's about. You don't have to understand everything, okay? Because we're gonna read when we go to the questions. Let's see. I'm sorry, guys. I think my computer stopped working and it kicked me out of the meeting. But I'm sending you guys now the link for the text. Please open the link and you will find the text there. And as I was telling you, I'll give you 3 minutes for you to scan it. Okay, let me know if you have problems opening the link or the document. Okay, guys? Okay, guys, so can you tell me a little bit of what it's about, what the text was about?
Well, it was about an ancient city uh, near Mexico City.
Exactly. And what do they say about this city?
Well, it says, it narrates or tells about the factors that influence to the growth of this city and what advantages does or it used to have in order to have that development.
Yes, perfect. I think that's a great summary. They definitely talk about the growth of the city and the factors that influenced or that led to this development. And as you said, they talk about the advantages that they had over other cities, surrounding cities, which made Teotihuacan like power among that area. And yes, exactly that. And you guys can find that if you just read the first sentences, if you just read around, right? You don't necessarily have to read it. That's the idea. Thank you. So now let's start answering the questions. We're gonna take a look at the different question types. And we're gonna start looking at detailed questions, which are very common, very frequent. So we're gonna start by answering question 5, which is the first detailed question that we get in this set. So let's see. Take a look at question 5. Detailed questions basically ask you, as the name says, for details in the text. They will ask you for specific information, specific facts that are directly, explicitly mentioned in the text. It's always going to be information that you can find there. Siempre va a ser información que está ahí en el texto, información directa y muy específica. So let's see. No questions. Okay, there we go. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be answering question 5, as I said. Here's question 5. So Michaela, please, can you read the question?
Okay, according to paragraph 4, what has recent research on obsidian tools found at Olmexit's shown?
Okay. Okay, let's leave that for your practice. Let's answer a different question. Question 5, we said, right? That came first. Let's go in order. So this question says, which of the following allowed Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge over its neighbors? Yeah, that's question 5. First of all, how do you know that it's a detailed question? Because it's asking for something specific. It's asking for a detail. They will ask you for what, when, where, why, how, for how long, what was the name of somebody, when did something appear, when something happened. They will ask you for specific information. In this case, they're asking for what allowed Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge with its neighbors. Now, you don't have to worry about looking in the text because they will point you to the right paragraph where you will find the answer. Siempre les van a apuntar al párrafo donde está la respuesta, así que no tienen que preocuparse de buscar el párrafo. What we're gonna do, don't read the options first. First tip for this question type, don't read the options first. What happens is, if you read the options first, you're gonna find one that sounds familiar, that sounds good, and then you're gonna look for information that kind of supports that idea that that's correct. Your brain is gonna be biased. So just read the question, don't look at the options. And I want you guys to think about this, try to answer the question. Let me know what you think, which option you would choose. And then we'll discuss the strategies for this specific question. Okay, guys, so I'll give you 1 to 2 minutes to answer this question. Let me know what you think. Okay, guys, so what do you think? Which option would you choose?
I'm not totally sure, but maybe A.
Okay, good. Do you guys agree? Micaela, Carolina, what do you guys think?
I think it's D.
Okay, B, scarce natural resources, me.
Yes.
Okay, good, Micaela, thanks. Carolina, what about you? Okay, so let's see. To answer this question, guys, you have to follow 3 different steps. The first one is obviously read the question carefully, understand the question, and look for the most important words in the question. Those are called keywords. Look for the keywords in the question. In this case, they're asking for what allowed Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge over its neighbors. So they're asking for this competitive edge that the Teotihuacan had over its neighbors. If we are looking for the main words, probably we would choose competitive edge. Maybe edge is the most important word here. And probably Teotihuacan and neighbors, right? But the most important thing I would say is edge. So what you guys have to do now that you've identified the keywords is look for those keywords in the paragraph. Now, careful with this step because you won't always have the exact same words in the text. Sometimes you'll have synonyms of those words. So maybe instead of a competitive edge, you have like an advantage, maybe a big advantage over its neighbors, or maybe a big advantage over surrounding cities, for example. So you have to identify the most important words, the keywords, and you have to find them in the text. But you need to remember that you won't always have the exact same words. Sometimes you'll have synonyms. Now, in this case, it's pretty simple because it's a quote. So I'm sure you guys found that quote here, right? A competitive edge over its neighbors. That's the first step. Now, the second step is to read around the keywords. And this is probably the mistake that many students make, is that they read everything. Believe me, guys, for this question, you will never have to read the entire paragraph, never. Because it's a detail they're asking for. It's something specific. They're not asking for a summary. They're not asking for you to understand the entire thing. They're asking for you to find a detail in the text. So you'll never have to read everything for this question. So what you guys have to do is read around the keywords. We're gonna read around them. We're gonna say probably the same sentence, the sentence before or after that. And if we read, it says, it seems likely that Teotihuacan's natural resources, along with the city elite's ability to recognize their potential, gave the city a competitive edge for its neighbors. Look at how they say, this gave the city a competitive edge. And the question is, what allowed the city to have a competitive edge? Do you guys think it's the same, or is it close enough at least? Is it referring to the same thing?
Yes.
Yeah, right? Because what allowed the city to have a competitive edge is similar enough to what gave the city a competitive edge. What was the reason why the city have a competitive edge? So synonyms. Now, if we have all that already, that means that we already have the answer, right? What allowed the city to have a competitive edge? The answer is their natural resources, that's one thing. And the second is the city elite's ability to recognize their potential. So what allowed the city to have a competitive edge was their natural resources and the ability to recognize the potential of those resources, right? Those are the two things that allowed Teotihuacan to have this competitive edge. Now that you have the answer, you have to stop reading. You don't need to read anything else because you've already found the answer. That was the second step, sorry. And finally, the third step is to now read the options and try to look among these options for the one that is the closest to what you found. Unfortunately, we won't have an option. It's very unlikely that you will have an option that says the same, in the same words, that says Teotihuacan's natural resources along with the city elite's ability to recognize their potential. Unfortunately, it would be too easy if you had that. So what you will have is a paraphrase of that. You will have the same idea, but in different words. One of the options will contain the same idea, but in different words. Now it's your turn to find what option says the same. You can eliminate a few options, or you can just find the one directly. I'm going to talk about some of the common traps. For example, if we look at option D, it says, it's tempting because it contains the words natural resources. And we know that natural resources was one of the things that allowed the city to have a competitive edge, right? So it's very tempting. But we can't just select an option because it contains good words. We need to read and analyze. So it says scarce natural resources in nearby areas such as those located in what are now the Guatemalan and Mexican highlands. Okay. First thing that I'm noticing is that it doesn't contain everything we talked about, right? It talks about their natural resources, but it doesn't contain the second thing, which is their ability to recognize their potential. So that's one thing that is kind of, I don't know, making me doubt a little. Now, the second thing is not just natural resources. They say scarce natural resources located in these areas. So if you guys are going to choose a certain option that contains more information than what you have read, you need to make sure that it's correct information, right? That it makes sense, that it's supported by the text. So first of all, what tells us that these natural resources were scarce? What information in the text says that? How do we know they were scarce? Do they say that they were scarce in the text?
No, but it says that it's a volcanic stone.
Okay, good. But actually they say that they were rich in this stone, right? They were rich in obsidian. The valley was rich, right? So the hard volcanic stone was a resource that had been in great demand for many years, but the valley was rich in this resource, right? So Teotihuacan obsidian must have been recognized as a valuable commodity for many centuries before the Great City arose. So actually, we don't have enough information to say that they were scarce, right? Actually, they say that they were rich in obsidian. Then they say located in nearby areas, such as those located in what are now the Guatemalan and Mexican highlands. So, were these natural resources located in nearby areas, or were they located in the valley itself? That's another question, right? So option D, even though it contains the words natural resources and it talks about natural resources, it contains false information because first of all, they weren't scarce and they weren't located in nearby areas, right? They were located in the valley itself. So option D contains false information, and that's one of the most common traps. And aside from that, it also is missing this part here, the ability to recognize their potential. So we're gonna, for a moment, eliminate that option, but we can come back to it later, right? But let's analyze the other options too. Now, option C says knowledge derived directly from the Olmecs about the art of toolmaking. This is the very common, familiar option because it contains words that were mentioned, like Olmecs, toolmaking. They mentioned something about that, but is it related to the question? Probably not, right? Because the question talks about what gave the city this edge, and what gave the city this edge was their natural resources and the ability to recognize their potential, not the knowledge derived from the Olmecs. So option C is completely unrelated, completely off topic. We could definitely eliminate that option. Now, option B says the presence of a highly stable elite class. Option B is similar to option D. Why? Because it contains a word or a phrase of interest, right? It contains the word elite. And we know that our answer contains the same word. But let's check that it makes sense, that it answers the question, and that it's true information. It says the presence of a highly stable elite class. Was it really the fact that this elite class was stable what allowed the city to have this edge? Was it the stability of the elite class what gave the city this edge? Not really, right? It was the natural resources and the ability to recognize their potential, not the stability of the elite class. And second, how do we know that they were highly stable? Is there anywhere in the paragraph that says that they were a highly stable elite class? I don't think so, right? They don't say anything like that. They don't say anything about how stable the elite class was. So option B is not correct either, because it contains false information, or at least information that we don't know about. We don't know how stable they were. And it's unrelated to the question, because the question is asking about what gave the city this edge, and we already know that it was the resources and the ability to recognize their potential. So just by discarding options, I think option A is the only one we have left. But also, if we analyze option A, it says a well-exploited and readily available commodity. Does anyone know what commodity means?
It's like the resource to produce another thing, another product.
Exactly, great. Commodity is a resource. It's the synonym of the word resource. And actually they use it here, right? Obsidian was a valuable commodity. So we know that obsidian was a commodity. Obsidian was a resource that they had. Commodity basically means the goods that you have, like the properties, the resources, the things that you have, right? That's your commodity. So they say that what allowed Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge was the readily available commodity. Readily available means that it was ready for using from the moment they established a city, right? It wasn't something they created, something they built, something they produced. It was something that was ready to use, to be disposed from the moment they were starting as a city. That's basically a synonym for natural resources, right? Algo que estaba listo para usar, readily available, disponible desde el principio, a resource that was readily available, right? That means a natural resource, un recurso natural. And then they say a well-exploited. Well exploited is probably related to the ability to recognize their potential, right? Because if this city recognized the potential of the resources they had, that means that they exploited that potential as well, right? They recognized the potential they had and they exploited them. So that's why option A is the correct choice, because it's saying the same as what we already found, natural resources and the ability to recognize their potential, but in different words, right? It's saying the same, but in different words. So that's how we can come to the conclusion that option A is the correct choice. It's the closest one. And it's interesting because it's the only one that doesn't contain a single word that was mentioned in the text, right? It's probably the one that you would look at the least. No contiene ninguna palabra o frase que ha sido mencionada. Pero es un sinónimo, es una forma de parafrasear la respuesta, ¿no? Natural resources and the ability to recognize your potential. So those are the 3 steps. Leen la pregunta, identifican las palabras más importantes, los keywords, buscan por esas palabras en el texto, leen alrededor de las palabras que han encontrado, porque siempre va a ser un detalle, va a ser algo pequeño, algo específico, no tienen que leer todo. Encuentran la respuesta y luego comparen esa respuesta, esa idea que tienen con las opciones. Probablemente van a tener sinónimos, a paraphrase of your answer, right? You won't have the exact same thing in the options. So what do you guys think? Is that okay? Is it clear why option A is the correct choice? Does anyone have any questions? All clear?
In this kind of questions, the part uh, or the phrase that is mentioned in the question is um, resulted on the text, like in this case.
If it's a quote, yes, it will be highlighted. If it's a quote, in this case, it's a quote, right? If it's not a quote, then it won't be highlighted. So you have to look for the words
Okay, thank you.
or the synonyms of those words, right? In this case, since it's a quote, you have the exact same words. Estaban tal cual. Pero si no fuera una quote, probablemente tuvieras sinónimos, ¿no? Como dijimos, en vez de competitive edge, podría ser an advantage. Instead of neighbors, you could have surrounding cities. Pero usualmente sí van a haber palabras que se repitan y que las encuentres en el texto. Entonces se trata de buscar alrededor.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Guys, so to practice, now you will answer this other question that we were going to answer in the beginning. Question 6, the next one, it's another detailed question. So do what we did and let me know what you guys think, what the answer would be in this case. Okay, guys. What would you say?
Letter D.
Okay, do you all agree? So yes, totally. If we read the question, it says, what has recent research on obsidian tools found on Olmec sites shown? What would you guys say the keywords are in the question? What are the keywords in the question?
Obsidian and Olmecs sites.
Because maybe research, Olmec sites, Obsidian, right? Those are the keywords. We look for them in the text. You're probably going to find that you have more than, I mean, you'll find those words probably in more than just one place, right? For example, here we have the word Obsidian. Then we have Olmecs, Olmec sites, Obsidian tool, but here we find the word research. So probably recent research. That's the one, right? We start reading. Moreover, recent research on Obsidian tools found at Olmec sites has shown that the question asks for what has this research shown, and then they say this research has shown that. So this has got to be the answer, right? What has this research shown? That some of the obsidian obtained by the Olmecs originated in Teotihuacan. That's it. You stop reading. It's a detail. You try to understand that the obsidian obtained by the Olmecs originated in Teotihuacan, and you search for that in the options. Definitely gonna be option D. Some of the obsidian used by the Olmecs came from, originated, it's a synonym, near, around, the area around is the same as near, Teotihuacan. Perfect. One thing that I also want you guys to be really careful with is these modifiers. Modifiers are words that modify the noun. That means that, like, limit the noun or describe the noun in a way. So in this case, it's very common to have traps like with these words. Because let's say that option D says all of the obsidian obtained or used by the Olmecs came from. That wouldn't be correct because some is not the same as all, right? Always is not the same as hardly, as sometimes, or never is not the same as hardly ever. 100% is not the same as 25% or the 75%, right? So careful with those modifiers because they can sometimes make you make mistakes if you don't read them carefully. Guys? Is that okay then? Do you have any questions about this? No? Okay. Well, those are detailed questions. Now we're gonna see except type of question. These questions ask you for, it's the same as detailed questions, to be honest, it's exactly the same. But instead of asking you for information that is directly or explicitly mentioned in the text, they will ask you for the opposite. They will ask you for information that's not mentioned in the text. So the way to answer this question is just by eliminating options. They ask you for something that's not in the text. How do you get to that answer? By eliminating the options that are in the text, right? Les van a preguntar por algo que no fue mencionado. Para llegar a la respuesta tienen que eliminar las opciones que sí han sido mencionadas. Pero el proceso es muy similar o igual al de las anteriores preguntas, detailed question. Solo que funciona de manera inversa. Let's see. Carolina, please, can you read question 3 here?
Okay, teacher. Number 3. Which of the following is not mentioned in paragraph 2 as a main factor in the development of Teotihuacan?
Okay. So we're gonna do the same. I'll give you guys 2 or 1 minute to try to answer this question. Let me know what option you would choose, and then we'll see the strategies for this question. You guys, what would you say?
Letter C.
Letter C also.
Hey guys, perfect. Do you all agree? Is there anybody who thinks it's another one maybe? All right, so let's see, let's check. For these questions, process is exactly the same as I was telling you. You don't read the options. First, you read the question, you identify the keywords. They're asking for what is not mentioned as a main factor in the development of the Teotihuacan. Keywords, probably factor development of Teotihuacan, right? Or their synonyms, right? Their synonyms could also work. So instead of maybe development, you have the word growth. Instead of factor, you have like reason, or yeah, reason could be one, right? So we look for those, but I think it's pretty obvious what's here. We have the words development, we have the words Teotihuacan, and we have the word fact. Now, one thing that you guys need to be really careful with is the modifier. This is exactly what I was telling you just now. Main factors is not the same, for example, as secondary factors, right? So we're looking at the main factors only, because you will find there's another word factor here, but they talk about other factors in the second part of the text. They don't talk about main factors. So we start reading around and it says, how did this tremendous development take place? Why did it happen in the Teotihuacan Valley? Among the main factors are, the question is, what is not a main factor? Remember what we said? In order to find the one that is not a main factor, we need to find first the main factors and then eliminate those in the options. What are the main factors? We start reading. They say the first main factor is Teotihuacan's geographic location on a natural trade route to the south and east of the Valley of Mexico. That's the first main factor in the development of Teotihuacan. So what we do is, since this was mentioned, we need to look for that option in the, look for that part or that factor in the options. And if we find it, we eliminate it. If we don't find it, then that's the one, right? So option A says the presence of obsidian. Option B, the potential for extensive irrigation, a long period of volcanic inactivity, Teotihuacan's location. Which option is mentioning that fact? Teotihuacan's geographic location. What option mentions that? What option?
Can you repeat, please? I am having problems with my connection.
Yeah, sure. The main factor, according to the text, is Teotihuacan's geographic location on a natural trade route to the south and east of the Valley of Mexico. So which option says that?
The last one, letter D.
Exactly. So option D says Teotihuacan's location on a natural trade route. Now, before eliminating this option, we have to make sure and double check that everything is all right, that everything is correct and makes sense. So Teotihuacan's location on a natural trade route, is it true? Yes, their location on a natural trade route. So yes, it's perfect. Now, what happens if, for example, you have the option that says Teotihuacan's location on a natural trade route to the, I don't know, north of the Valley of Mexico? That could also happen sometimes. In that case, if you have this, then you couldn't eliminate that option because they don't mention the north of the Valley of Mexico, right? They mention the south and east. So be careful. The reason why I'm telling you this is because it's necessary that you read everything and that you're careful with the information you have. Sometimes we are so like, we're in a hurry and we want to just very quickly answer the question that we're not paying close attention to everything, right? So be careful. In this case, they don't say this, so obviously we can eliminate option D, it's correct. Let's eliminate that. Then the second factor, according to the text, is the obsidian resources in the Teotihuacan Valley itself. So what option says that?
A.
Exactly. Option A mentions the obsidian resources. So since option A is mentioned and they're asking for something that's not mentioned, we can eliminate option A as well. And then the third factor, it says it's the valley's potential for extensive irrigation. So what option says that?
B.
Exactly. So option B is mentioned, we can eliminate it. The only one that's not mentioned as a main factor is option C. You guys were correct. Perfect. Now, you guys can do this very quickly, but you just need to pay attention to the information. It has to be completely correct. You need to make sure that you read what is only necessary, because you will be wasting your time if you continue reading after this, right? Because then they talk about other factors and they are just mentioning main factors. So maybe there will be an option, or maybe one of the other factors is the long period of volcanic inactivity, maybe. But we don't care about that because the question asked for the main factors, not for the other second.
No,
Okay.
y eso está. Ahí está. Amor.
So, is this okay? Do you guys have any questions about this? Everything clear so far? We have seen two different question types, right? Detail and except type of question. Do you guys have any questions before we go about what we did today, or the reading section in general? Or anything at all? Okay, guys, so I'm sending you this presentation. You have the material there. And tomorrow we will continue looking at the other question types. We'll do the other ones we have left. We have a lot of them. We have 8 more to see, but it's fine because the other ones are sometimes, I mean, the other ones are not as frequent as these ones here. So we're not going to need as much time. Okay, guys, we will finish this week. Do you have any questions before we go? Okay, then please don't forget today's daily survey on your way out. And I will see you all tomorrow. We'll continue working on the reading section. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great night.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.